differently. I work in the workplace division, which what that essentially is I'm kind of an arm of marketing. So I would go to companies that have about 50 or more employees and talk to them about financial wellness, talk to them about a special program that they'd have with us, being that they work with that company. And hopefully they would go ahead and sign up with First National Bank, but then also do things like this where we talk about financial wellness, we talk about certain topics, maybe about maintaining good credit or how to get good credit or how to repair, those types of things, which also gives back, into the community. So it's something that I really enjoy doing, but I loved doing presentations in person. It's just to me a little more personable, get a lot of more interaction that way. So we're gonna definitely do it like this because this is how a lot of people obviously are doing this now because of COVID. But however, we're able to adapt and we're able to do it. But again, I do want this to be very interactive. If you want to write something down and ask me later, that's fine. On the presentation, you guys will have my information there. So that's a little bit about me. First National Bank. Does anybody know? Does anybody know First National Bank at all? Have you seen us?
Wow. Hi, this is Kanisha. I have. It, that's a new bank I've been seeing popping around Durham here in the last couple.
Hmm. Great, Kanisha. Thank you. Yeah, we are pretty new. We used to be Yadkin. So about 2 to 3 years ago, we acquired Yadkin Bank, and that's how we came into the North Carolina market. To give you kind of a little background about First National Bank, um, we actually are in about 8 states. So we're not the hugest bank out there, but as far as assets wise, we are a big bank. We actually manage 37 billion in assets. So, but we like to keep things on a very community level. We have about 600 ATMs, 350 branches, and what our philosophy is that we do pretty much, we call it the clicks to bricks. Okay, so right now everybody is doing, as you could see, banking has evolved. The day and age where people were, had to go to the bank, back in the day when you got your paycheck, right? If anybody remembers this, you actually had to run to the bank on a Friday. We closed at 5 o'clock, and you wanted to run and get your check either deposited or cashed or whatever it was. And then now that's not the case anymore. Now it's more of, we have direct deposit, we have mobile deposit, you have online banking, you've also got mobile banking. So all these things now have evolved where you don't really need a branch anymore, but you still want to have a branch because that's our gateway to the community. So that's our philosophy, and that's what we want to try to do. Is we want to try to give all the conveniences of course, of the mobile banking and all the mobile capabilities and all the online capabilities, but we still want to have the branches there in case somebody does like to come in and open up their account, talk with somebody about some things that are coming up that's happening in their life, that they can go ahead and talk and get some good sound advice. So that's something that with First National Bank, that's not going to go away. So that's pretty much about First National Bank. We're headquartered in Pennsylvania, but we've got all over the Carolinas, all over North Carolina, especially South Carolina. We are there, but we only have about 1 or 2 branches so far. But we've got plenty of them in North Carolina. They're pretty much all over Raleigh. We've got them in Greensboro. We've got them in Wilmington, and also the Outer Banks in Charlotte. So we're pretty much all over Carolina. So we have a big presence here, and we're hoping to become even bigger. If you do see us tomorrow, you'll probably look and go, "Oh, that's First National Bank." We're the logo that kind of looks like the Patriots, the Patriots team. So if you see that, that's what you see. You might like us for that. You may not like us for that, but that's pretty much what we look like. You'll see that and go, "Oh, okay, that's who he works for." So That's the bank that we're talking about. So that, it's pretty much about First National Bank. So we'll go ahead and go right into the presentation, and we'll talk about, credit and so forth. And I'll ask some questions, and hopefully you guys will chime in. So this way it's not just me just, talking. I like to get people's perspective. And I like to get your ideas and share some personal things that have happened that maybe that you do want to share with us. You don't have to. One thing about credit, it is somewhat of a private thing. So share it if you'd like to. You don't have to. But if you have some experiences that you want to share, or some things that you want to ask, that's no problem. If you want to ever save those questions because they're a little bit more personal to you, I totally understand that. You can always, at the end of the presentation, you can one-off with me. My email, my phone number will be available, and I'll be always available to you if you have any questions in regards to the presentation, or just about banking or First National Bank in general. So, that will be where you can always one-off with me and we can talk. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get started. Does anybody have anything being that we're talking about credit and maintaining good credit, just so I can go ahead and make sure that we're covering the things that are important to you, because this is your time and this is your class. So I want to know what kind of questions, what do you think you're going to get out of this tonight, and what would you like for me to cover especially? And you might not have anything now. We might, at the end of the presentation, you might have something, again, where you can one-off with me. Or you can just go ahead and ask.
I just would like to know.
Coming, man. Oh. You got the keys, right? Do it. What to do it? Okay, here you go. That new key's cool. Let me go ahead and get my food.
Sorry, you'd like to know some? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, we good?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Todd, I have a question.
Sure.
Hey, I went through a management training program back in the day, right after college. And, the management training program was really, really great for KeyBank. It's like upstate New York, Albany area.
Okay.
And, we got a chance to see all facets of the bank and, learn quite a bit. And one of the things I never really understood when it comes to credit, as a consumer,
mm-hmm.
is if you decide to close an account just because you're like, I just need, maybe you were frustrated with it, and that was my case. This was many years ago. I closed the account. And why does it come up as derogatory if you voluntarily closed it? You paid it and you closed it. I mean, maybe it's kind of like when I was younger, in my 20s, I had like 25 credit cards, and it's like, maybe I didn't need it because I had one for Lord & Taylor, I had one for this Macy's, I had, all this stuff, right? So you're like, maybe I need to do something about, bringing in my credit. So I thought at one time that it was a good thing if you voluntarily closed it, not if the creditor closed it, but if you did. So I'm kind of like, no, that's backwards. I'm thinking, did I learn that in the training program? Where did I hear that it's okay to close it? But when you pull the report, it kind of comes up with some little funky code that says, she closed the account. Okay, that's not a good thing. Hey, I'm just trying to knock off some of these cards. Maybe some of them just need to go away. But of course, we know they never really do. So what's up with that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And, so you were from Albany. I was actually, I lived in Long Island for a while. So I was from New York, moved down to Florida, and then to Georgia, and now here. So I'm called a halfback over here. That's what people keep telling me. I'm halfback.
They call me that too. I've lived between New York and Florida. I started out, been to Florida, back up, 95. Oh my God, that's another story. But welcome.
Thank you. That's where that Lord & Taylor came from. Was Florida.
Yeah.
So no, great question. And yeah, and that, it really is, because sometimes you're just like, okay, what, there's so many misconceptions about credit. And so many things you're told, and so many things that that are true, and then some things that are not. So when you close that account, when you close it as a consumer, there really shouldn't be any derogatory unless they closed it wrong. Because when you close it, it comes up as closed by consumer. So that means you, like you said, that means you called them and closed it.
Yeah.
If they closed it, so at the time that you called to close it, I wonder if they closed it incorrectly, because there's a way you can close it where it does show up like a derogatory, almost like
Mm-hmm.
the creditor closed it, but
Mm-hmm.
it was you. So when you
Mm-hmm.
see something like that, that's something that you should absolutely dispute on your credit bureau, or call that company and say, hey, why is this showing up as you closed this? I did.
Yeah.
Because that is true. It shouldn't be derogatory. Now, to answer your question, is it good to close accounts? Not all the time, and I'll tell you why. And I understand, the misconception where it's like, I'm not using these cards. I have this open line of credit.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and start closing these out. What happens is that if you have balances on some other cards, your utilization goes down. So the credit bureaus take a look at every credit card you've got, everything you have available to you. Your Lord and Taylor's, right? Your Macy's, everything you have, it adds up all those credit lines, and it says, okay, Casey has $15,000 total available credit to her on her credit cards. Okay, but maybe Casey has $5,000 on one credit card. So maybe there's one credit card where you're going to close down, and it has a $5,000 credit limit on it. But you're like, you know what? I want to get rid of it. So you close it. Now what happened is your utilization went up because you've gotten rid of that $5,000 card. It's now $10,000. So you just went from being 30% utilized to 50% utilized. And your credit score is going to be affected like that because of the fact that utilization is one of the biggest thing that actually affects your credit report. So that's where you want to think about it before you close those cards.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is that sometimes it's nice, because if you've had those cards for a while, it shows that you've been in credit for a long time. So if you start closing out some of these cards that basically you had for a while, but then you've got some new cards, then it looks like you haven't used, or you haven't been in credit for that long. So It can affect your credit that way too. But that one is a very small portion of your credit bureau, a very small portion of your credit mix. The big one though is the utilization. So that's why. But as far as it being derogatory and them saying that they closed it, no, that's something that you can dispute, because that's not supposed to happen. It's supposed to be where it was closed by consumer, and that does not affect your credit.
Okay, that's good. And I guess
Hello, can y'all hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure. This is Orlando Jeffers. I'm running a little late here, but I'm here.
All right, wonderful. Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So any other things that we want to try to maybe get out of what we're going to talk about? So what kind of ideas do you have about credit? So basically what is credit? Someone want to tell me what that is? Seems pretty basic, right?
I mean, everybody definition is Kanisha. Everybody definition is different, but in today's world, credit is really the pathway to everything now.
Yeah, to Kanisha, you're right to a certain extent. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and yeah, there's different meanings for everything, but credit obviously is that whole thing about pretty much getting something now and paying for it over time, or paying for it later. You're able to get these things and right now and then pay it later. Okay.
Yeah.
But now, so that, that's pretty much credit. Now that's credit as far as a definition, but what do we think? What are some ideas that we have about what credit? I'm going to
Hush,
go
Joker.
ahead. Yeah.
Hush. Sorry, guys. Joker, get.
Well, I know it speaks to the way you budget your finances, your ability to pay consistently on time. It's almost like your financial character, so to speak.
Yeah,
You
very good.
know, because someone can look at your credit score. I mean, we see it all the time. Hey, do you want to live with mom and dad forever? Hit here, because you want to what? You want to boost that. You want to boost that credit score so you can get yourself an apartment. You know what I mean? Young people. So I just thought that was so cool because I just said, you know what, that they're going to have a lot of people, coming into that. But that tells a banker or a creditor, if they can loan us money.
Right. Exactly. That's very true. That's pretty much your credit is pretty much your, let's say, your financial snapshot, right? So it's your financial fingerprint, let's say. Okay. So and also, Casey, and I thank you because that's exactly right. Obviously, how you're handling your budget and how you're handling your finances are going to directly impact your credit score. So yeah, absolutely. So how about as far as because Casey, you said something that resonates too, about maybe a banker looking at a basically looking at a credit report or a financial statement and getting all the information to see if a loan can be approved or not.
Right.
What do you think some of the things a bank looks at rather than just a credit score? Credit's a huge part of it, but what do you think a bank looks at as well? And anybody.
I would say the consistency of your income flow. I mean, I'm talking from experience because I'm facing this now, so I'm very in tune to this certain topic.
Mhm.
And they hold like direct deposits or certain, like I have to have a certain amount of deposits come into my account before I can get, some type of like a personal loan or hospital loan or whatever. So I know, and then the time at your job, your employment, your length of employment, and the frequency of your income.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, and that's Kenesha, right?
Yes, it's me. I'm just not on camera because I have a whole, y'all clearly hear the dog and the children, but I'm here. I'm listening. They in it. And so, say I'll be quiet. Shh.
No, that's awesome. I appreciate your participation. Yeah, that's so yeah. So when we're taking a look at credit, right? When we're taking a look at actually doing a loan, does anybody ever heard about the 5 C's of credit?
Yeah.
So 5 C's of credit are character, capacity, collateral, capital, and conditions. Okay. So Kenesha was awesome because she talked about one of them, character. Okay, so your character kind of comes in with the credit bureau, right? Because we're going to see how you pay your bills, how you manage your debt. Okay. Also, Kenesha had mentioned how long have you been at your job or how long have you been in that industry? We take a look at those things too. Income flow, awesome. That's great. That goes with capacity and capital. Do you have the reserves to go ahead and get this loan, or do you have the capacity where you can maintain this loan by the income that you're getting? Okay. Now the other things are collateral. All right, collateral. That's obviously if you're buying a house or a car. Is there something that can secure the money that we're loaning out? So we look at that as well. Okay. And then when it comes to collateral, that's also going to determine also interest rates too. Because you have a collateral, a car loan or a home loan or home equity line, these types of things that are collateralized by your house, that means you're securing them with that asset. The interest rates are going to be lower because the possibility of you not paying those is very slim because of the fact that you need a home, you need a car. So the interest rates come in a little different. So conditions, right? So how about right now? What do we got going on right now that's a condition, you think? Right? COVID's a condition, right? So it's something that's going on that could affect a lot of things that are happening in people's lives, unfortunately, right? So those are those things that the bank looks at, but your credit report is a huge factor, because unfortunately, if you have all these other things and all these other things are great, if credit is not there, it's going to be very difficult for you to obtain a loan of some sort. Okay. So that's why I want you to understand a little bit more about your credit bureau and how that all works. Mackenzie, I'm sorry, is the presentation up?
She just went back to the main room.
Oh, she did. Okay. No problem. We realistically, we don't really even need that much of the presentation.
Do you need screen share abilities? Is that why it's not working?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I can ask her.
Okay, thank you. Let me see, because I'm trying to think if I can get. Yeah, no. Okay. So when it comes to your credit report, right? So what do people know? What do you guys know about credit reports?
I know nothing about it.
Nothing about it. All right. Good deal. Well, we're gonna start there, and that's good. You're gonna find out a little bit more about it tonight.
Okay.
Mackenzie, is there a way I can share the screen? Okay.
Yep, sharing now. Sorry, whenever people join late, I have to go back to the main room.
I got you.
That's why I had to pop away.
That's okay. No, that's okay. I mean, again, this is something that we can talk about even without that, because I think it was Orlando. Orlando, was that you that said you don't know anything about credit reports, right?
Yeah. I just can't drop my eyes and look at the screen because I'm driving.
I got you, my friend. No, you're fine. You're fine. Be careful.
Okay, you
Yeah.
should be good to share now.
Okay.
And Orlando, we'll record this so you can re-watch his presentation later if you need to.
Okay.
And then do I just hit the share screen? Is that what I do?
Yep, just hit the green button and your screen should pop up.
Okay. Let's see. All right. Yeah, it's not giving me that option. Let me see.
That is weird.
Well, believe me, it could be on my side. Believe me, I'm pretty sure it is. Let's see.
Well, can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, I'm trying to get a credit card, but the boss that I work for pays me under the table. They said that I'm gonna have to show my proof of income. So how do I go about doing that?
So with something like that, with proof of income, that's the thing there is, would your boss be able to, would they turn around and give you like a letter saying how much you make,
Right.
they pay you under the table, so that means you're not paying any taxes, so that's not, so the thing is that if you were to grab some sort of something from them stating how much you're making and how much and so forth, more than likely that would work, all depending on,
Okay.
all depending on the creditor.
Right, because I don't have no credit. I don't have no score, nothing.
Okay. So then that's something where, if you're starting out with credit, there's definitely ways that you can build your credit. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of ways that you can do it.
All right, I need my credit.
And we'll definitely go over those things, as we're going.
Okay.
Yeah. So I apologize. The presentation's not loading up. So, but like I said, that's okay. I've got it here and I can share it with everybody.
Slash, you can email it to, I'm going to chat you the names to email it to, and then they can screen share. It'll either be me or Thea. We can screen share and you can just tell us when to hit next slide. If you can see it.
So should I go ahead and just email it to you right now then, or?
Yep, I'm putting my email in the chat.
Okay, awesome. Okay, wonderful. There we go. All right, guys.
Y'all stay there?
Still here.
Okay, I'm just checking.
Absolutely.
Make sure I hadn't lost signal because I'm on 40.
Here we go. Okay. Mackenzie, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry it's not letting you share. When
No.
do you not even have the green button on your screen, or when you click it, just nothing happens?
Just nothing happens.
Oh.
But that, again, I honestly, that's probably me and my technologically challenged self. So
Does it show up and say that like the host hasn't given you permission to screen share when you press the green button?
yeah, so it says to share the screen, right? But then
Yeah.
the presentation itself doesn't. It's not like I can't pull it from where I have it from for whatever reason. So, but that's probably coming from where I have it.
You could also share your whole desktop and then you can look for it on your screen, like yourself, after you press screen share, instead of just sharing the presentation.
That.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. So you guys can see my screen. You guys can see my screen right now.
We
right?
see it. We see it. Yeah.
Okay. So then if I just turn around and did this, it should come up, right?
Yeah, it's opening.
It is.
There we go. All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Thea.
Good deal. Thank you very much. That's good. That's good for me to know too. I do a couple of these, but for some reason it just I couldn't figure out how to get this one on there. So does that look okay to everybody? Is everybody can see it?
Yeah. You can also, do you see like at the top, it's like the slideshow tab and then press like play from the beginning?
There it is. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. From the beginning. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. All right. Good deal. Good deal. All right. So so basically, yeah, so we're on this, and again, we'll go to the next. So we talked about this already. Credit is your ability to buy something now, right, with the guarantee to pay it back later. Managing your credit has never been more important. Absolutely. I mean, I think you guys understand that. That it's definitely very, very important. We talked about that's the financial footprint. That's your financial fingerprint. So what's included in your credit report? This is what I want to really dive into. So obviously it's right there, right? So we can see what's in there, right? But so your credit history, right? So it's got amount, type, and so forth, right? So what do we think that is as far as credit history? Okay, when it says an amount and when it says type. So what do we think, and then credit standing of your account. So what do all those things mean?
Wow, yeah, that's a good question.
Good deal. So the amount has to do with, like we talked about a little bit before, it has to do with how much you have available to you. So that's all it has to do with credit lines and credit cards. Because credit lines and credit cards are what's called open-ended credit. That means you can use it and pay it back. Okay. So the type, okay, again, we just talked about that. What type of credit is it? Is it a credit card, a credit line, or is it an installment loan? Installment loan is a closed-ended loan, like a house, like a car. You get a loan, you pay it, and then it's done. You don't reaccess the money, okay? Like a credit card or line of credit. Credit standing of your accounts, that's absolutely the payment history that you have on these creditors. So, it really all depends on how you're paying these creditors every month and when you're paying them. So, another question for you. If you miss a payment due date, okay, and you miss only one payment due date, does that affect your credit?
Yes.
Okay. Casey, thank you. All right. So depending, but however, in reality, most of the loans that you have, if you miss one payment, it actually does not affect your credit adversely.
Why is that?
It's called a 5-day. 5 days happen. 5 days can happen. And Orlando, thank you. Reason being is because 5 days can happen. Back in the day, it was maybe mail. Okay. It was maybe misposted. Maybe it didn't get processed right away. So 5-day doesn't affect your credit history. It doesn't get reported. And too many of them happen to actually report them all to the credit bureau. So because they know that can happen sometimes. So they give you a little leeway on that. Now, the bad part about it is that, if you're late, what happens, right? Late charges, finance charges, all those fun things, right? So be late? No, because it's costly, okay? But at the end of the day, it doesn't affect your credit. Now, if you've waited and gone 2 payments behind, that's what's called 30-day. That actually gets on your credit. And that's where it starts to negatively adverse your credit history. Okay, so your score will come down. But if so the reason why I'm telling you that is I don't want you to freak out when if you've gotten 1 payment, behind, it's not gonna affect you as much if you got 2 payments behind. It won't even show up on your credit bureau. Okay. Inquiries. How about inquiries? There's a lot of things about inquiries, right? You hear a lot of different things about inquiries. So inquiries are each time you apply for credit. Okay. So what do you think the idea is behind that? Do you think that affects your credit, or do you think it's okay?
Like me, that should affect your credit.
Okay, good. So,
yeah, it does affect your credit.
Yeah. It can, all depending on what you're doing. Okay. Now, it's great. We go to Target, we go to all these places. Hey, how about saving yourself, 20%,
You hit your food yet?
right?
Oh, okay.
Apply for a card. That affects your credit if you're doing it a lot in the same month. If you're waiting a little bit, depending on what type of credit you're getting. So on a credit card, if you're waiting a couple months before you do it, you're fine. Okay. It's not that bad if you're doing it sparingly. If you're looking for a home loan or a car, that's a lot different, because the credit bureaus understand that every time you go for a home loan to get either pre-approved, or every time you go for a car loan, your credit report's going to get pulled a couple times, because that's the way they can tell what interest rate they're going to give you, and you're going to shop around. So if you have about 5 or 6 of them in the same month, even a little more than that, it's not gonna affect you as if you had 5 or 6 credit cards. That's where it's different. Okay. Public records, guys. That's huge. Okay. Judgments, unpaid tax, liens, collections over 7 years, those kind of things, which also, unfortunately, bankruptcy goes in there too. That shows up on your credit report. Okay. So rent. Okay. If you're renting, does that show up on your credit report or not? What do you guys think?
It probably will, because if you're renting through either a private or a large apartment complex, they have to run a credit check on you. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's a good question, but someone has to pull it.
Yeah, no, Casey, you're right. Most times, if you're renting from an apartment complex, and even if you're renting from somebody, because they have the ability to pull your credit too. Mm-hmm. If you're renting from somebody even privately, and they want to check your credit, they can. But your payment history does not get reported unless, of course, if you're behind and they want to throw on a public record or a collection, that's when it's going to show up there. But unfortunately, if you're one that makes your payments on time and you've been doing great, mm-hmm. not really going to help your credit at all. Now, if you go to a bank or whatever for a loan, sometimes the banker may ask for something from your landlord that proves that you paid on time for 12 months. Sometimes that happens, or how many times you paid on time and those kind of things. But for the most part, no, it doesn't get reported to your credit bureau, which is horrible, because some people, they're showing a great payment history with their rent, and it doesn't show up, and it doesn't help you, it doesn't hurt you. So
Right.
So yeah, those are those things, that will not show up. Now, mortgage, obviously, a mortgage will. Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you obtain your credit report, right? You got three there listed there. You can go to Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. You can go to write-to-annualcreditreport.com. You are entitled to get a full credit report every 12 months. But what can you go to now where you can get it almost monthly? That updates pretty much. It's pretty consistent how it updates every month. There's some tools out there now that are very good.
My credit card app gives me the option to see like a FICO credit score, but that's not necessarily a credit report.
Yep. So a credit report, yeah, absolutely. It does. Some of the credit cards, some of the apps have it, but you can also sign up with creditkarma.com. That's not something that's not sanctioned by the banks or anything. It's just another organization that's tied in with TransUnion and Experian, and you can go ahead and get a credit report. You can look at your credit report every month. You can actually see a report, and you can see if there's anything that goes on there. What's nice is that you can set alerts to it too, and it's free. You can send alerts to it if somebody was to actually access your credit report. If someone threw an inquiry on there, it's going to tell you. It's going to let you know. So it's great to go to. It's a great resource. Again, it's creditkarma.com. If you haven't heard about it, it's awesome. Any questions so far?
I do. Todd, I got a question. What's it, and you're going to get into it probably. I don't want to get ahead of you, but when we pull our credit score, we see that number. But I noticed that when I bought my first home, that, there's another score when you go to get a mortgage. And I'm thinking, and of course, they go to all three, but it's almost like you got that number that you can see, that the quick one, but then when you go in and you start to deal with the banking folks, they go deeper dive, and I don't know if it's a deeper dive, they're pulling it from someplace else, or how they're coming up with something. So if your credit score is 800 and you go in to get your go ahead and get your mortgage, they may come back and say, well, yeah, it's 800, but here on Equifax it's 725.
Yeah. See, so awesome observation. Awesome question there. So what happens is that most Equifax and Experian are pretty much the same. They pretty much have the same information. TransUnion is something that TransUnion comes out a little strange sometimes, where it has some old data sometimes. So sometimes those FICO scores will be different, and that's the next thing we're talking about, is what is a FICO score. That's pretty much your credit score, right? So we talked about your credit report. Now we're talking about your score. So it could be different. Even with Credit Karma, sometimes you could look at Credit Karma, and Credit Karma might say one thing, but yet your actual credit report may say something else when they actually pull it. That's why it's good to get one a year from Experian or Equifax. You can also for a charge, you can get something like Credit Karma every month from the actual credit reports, from the credit reporting agencies, but they're usually pretty close. So I wouldn't suggest paying for it, but that's sometimes where, so the banks will, if they don't like, for some reason, if something's not making sense on Experian or Equifax, they may go to TransUnion and pull that. Sometimes that happens. Plus, also, if you're a customer of the bank, they go by what's called a custom score, and a custom score is pretty much kind of brings up if you had any loans, if you have any deposits, if you have any checking accounts, those kind of things, and like your transaction volume, how long you've been a customer with us. Those kind of things get brought into play, but they're very they're looked upon as, it's one of those things where, credit score is right there, but we want something else to see so we can go ahead and approve this loan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they'll say, okay, the custom score is really high. They've got this with us. They've got that with it. They've been with us for this many years. So it builds the case stronger of getting that loan approved for you. Okay. So that's pretty much what that might be. But 3 agencies, 2 of them are going to look very much the same. TransUnion is usually looking a little different.
Okay.
So, but yeah, but no, great observation. So what do we think? You know how right there it says normal. So what do we think banks are typically looking for when they're looking for a credit score? So where that says 650, that's kind of the average of, let's say, let's say the national. Okay, it's a national average. So if you're looking at 650 or above, pretty much the banks are going to be interested. Now, if it's 650 and they're seeing some other things on the credit report, maybe there's a public record, they might want you to clear that up before they approve the loan. But however, 650 is where it is, and everybody's under this misconception that you have to have over 700 to get credit. Not necessarily. 650 or above is good. Anything under that, it's where it's going to start. It's where it's going to start, basically, where it's either the interest rate's going to be higher if you get the loan, or it's going to start where they're not able to approve it, right? So, and I always hate when we see this here, like poor, bad, normal. Well, poor doesn't necessarily mean that just because you have a low credit score, it might mean that you just started using credit. Okay. Bad means that maybe you've had some mishaps. Okay. So, and then now you're looking to basically start getting back on track. So I always hate using those poor or bad. Sometimes I use the word challenge. Sometimes and the thing is, the banks are always, they should, okay. The one thing that we always look to do is we want to approve a loan. We want to look for any reason to approve a loan. Okay. Because that's how we make money, right? But the only thing is, though, is that we also have to be fair on all angles, and that's why there has to be, through the Fair Credit Reporting Act, you have to be very consistent on everything, because of the fact that we don't, the banks don't want to look like they're doing loans for some and not for others. So they kind of stay with a very consistent way of doing things. Okay, any questions on that? So we kind of talked about the three scoring and what a credit score is. So 830, right? So that's a magic number, because I've heard some things out there. Well, the highest you can score you can get is an 850, and 30 is the highest.
I got a question to ask.
Yes, sir.
Is it really true that every time somebody pull your credit score, your beacon score go down?
Yeah, that's basically what we talked about with inquiries.
Right.
It can, but it all depends on how you're doing it. So if you're out there like in 1 month, you're out there applying for Target card, Walmart card, everything that they're throwing at you under the sun because they want you to go ahead and get this card so you get a discount. That's gonna negatively impact your credit score, but it's gonna impact it probably for about another 2 or 3 months. It's not gonna be as bad as a payment history or a public record or something of that nature. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So can it? Yes. But now if you're going for a car or a mortgage, that's a little bit different, because they're gonna pull it a couple times. And the credit bureaus know that. That's why it's not going to have the same impact as it was on a credit card.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And one other thing, Todd,
Yes.
those soft hits that maybe employers may do when they do a background check on you. I mean, I know some industries, they do the background, maybe criminal, education, that sort of thing. But your credit might be checked. Say if you work for a bank, those are soft hits, right? They're like little hits.
Absolutely. Yes. And thank you for bringing that up. Yes. Some of the employees will take a look at your credit file. But it is a soft hit. It's not the same thing as if you were applying for credit. Absolutely.
Okay.
So here are some things now that comprise of your credit. So what makes up your credit score, right? So we talked a little bit about inquiries, right? We talked a little about public records, talked a little about these things. So let's go ahead and dive in a little deeper. So payment history is 35%. So as you can see, that's huge, right? I mean, that's a majority of the
co-partner class. Sometimes I don't do it.
So 35% of your bills, basically paying your bills on time, is that's one part that's going to really affect your score. Okay, is making those on-time payments. The others is debt and available credit. So we talked about that a little bit, Casey, when we talked about closing an account. So again, think about it before you close it. If your utilization is going to go up, so if same situation we were talking about, if you've got total of $15,000 credit, you got $5,000 as a total balance, and you want to close a card that has about $5,000, you're going to go from 30% utilized to 50% utilized, and that's going to start negatively impacting your credit. So in that case, it's going to be better to keep the card open rather than close it.
Even if you're not using it?
Even if you're not using it. Absolutely.
Because that's why I closed it, because I had not touched it in years. Yep. And so I thought I was doing myself a favor.
No, but that's why this is good, because it is, and you're right, Casey, because that was something I was taught a long time ago too.
Mm-hmm.
Close the card. It's really not the best thing. You'll see where all of a sudden your utilization goes up and your credit score will go down rather than go up.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where you want to be careful. So then we got length of account history, like we talked about. Maybe you had an account that you opened up a long time ago and you've had it for the longest time, and then you opened up one maybe recently. So what it does is it takes that time period and averages out how long you were in file, let's say, you had that card. So the length of account history is only 15% of what makes up your score. But how it says there, avoid closing old accounts. Absolutely. If you've got an older account, avoid closing that, because that shows your stability. Okay. If you have to close something that you're not using, that you maybe you've only had open for, maybe 2 years or so. Then your credit mix. So that's the balanced credit between credit card and installment. Remember how we were talking about, right? So the installment loan is a car loan or a mortgage, okay? Or maybe a home equity loan. A home equity line or a credit card, that is something that you can use and then pay back and then reuse, okay? So it takes a look at that. So let's say you had a couple credit cards and you applied for a home equity loan, okay? And you decided to pay off those cards. You're going to see your credit score come up, because now you've got an installment loan. You've paid off all those other ones. So your utilization has now dropped tremendously, okay? And now you're an installment loan, so you don't have that availability to use it again. Once it's paid, it's done. So you don't have the opportunity to use that again, so you can't use any more credit on that. Does that make sense? Okay, good deal. And then now we talked about this too, 10%, right? New credit lines and credit inquiries. It's very little how it affects your credit. However, it does. So you just want to be very cautious and careful when you're doing that. So some little things, right? I'm pretty sure you guys know a lot of this. Some of the things you can do to improve your score. Obviously, always pay your bills on time, okay? Definitely utilize online banking. Make your payments through online banking. Gets there a lot quicker, and it gets there a little more securely. It doesn't get lost. Keep your overall amount of your debt low. When you hear that, sometimes that's hard to do, because you do have things come up. make sure you're doing things, you know, if there's an emergency case that you need it for, credit cards are great because there's a misconception out there that credit cards are horrible. They're really not. If you know how to use them correctly, they're a great financial tool. If you know your closing date, you can go ahead and wait to buy something one day after your closing date. You'd actually have almost about 2 months to pay that with interest free. Okay. So they're actually a very good tool. Um, you just want to be careful as to not to have a budget so you're not living off of them. Okay. Again, simple things you can do to improve your score. Obviously, check your credit so you can go through Credit Karma, get a free credit report. So obviously you know what's going on. And then Casey, as we talked about, if you see something on there that you can go ahead and go right to their website and you can go ahead and dispute something that's on your credit bureau or even have a note put on there if you need to. Okay.
Yeah, I looked at mine not too long ago, and you're right. I saw that and I was shocked because back in the day, I mean, I've looked at my credit before that, but back in the day, you had to write those people.
Exactly.
You had to write them or call them, and it was crazy. So today is a new day.
There's so many tools and so many things you can do. Now, things like outstanding collections, bankruptcies, judgments, those things you can arrange with the creditors if you have that. But a lot of times those things, unless it's a bankruptcy, a lot of times those things are on there and they're an error. And the unfortunate thing, or you might have paid it, like a medical bill or something gets on there. You may have paid it and it's just still reporting. Make sure you contact the credit report, or you make sure you contact that company and say, you need to remove this, and they can do it. So.
Hey, Todd.
Yes.
We have to end at 7:30.
Absolutely.
So I might open up the floor to see if anybody has any questions. And then I can send this, now that I have it, I can send this PowerPoint out to everybody tomorrow so that if there's things they need to look back on or finish, they can do so.
Wonderful.
I know one question that was posed to me about credit before you came was just like how to start building credit if you have no credit currently.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, I know that's one of the questions. And if you have no credit, one of the things there's two things you can do. You can go to, and this is how I started my credit, and it still works this way. You can go to sometimes a store credit card, one place that you go to constantly. Let's say it's Target, okay? And you apply for a credit card there. Those typically will accept ones that are a little bit like that are newer, that they're not risky, they're just new in credit. So they'll more than likely accept it. And then the way you build it, everything like everything else, it's about time. So use the card for whatever you're going to use it for. I don't care if you go there to buy a soda. Use your card, make sure you're putting that money aside, and you're going to pay it off at the end of the month. And you keep doing that. And then within 6 months to a year, they'll show that you have good payment history. And then believe me, you're going to start getting inundated with offers left and right. The other one is you can do a secured credit card. Okay. So for people who have limited credit, where you just basically starting out or starting over, a lot of times you can, if you put, let's say 300, 500, all depends on banks and how they do it. You can go ahead and put it out into a savings account, and then they can give you a secured card. It works just like a credit card. So it reports to your credit bureau, even though they're holding on to your money, but you get a monthly statement, you get interest charges if you don't pay it in full, all those things. And that's how you also establish your credit. You can go to creditcards.com, another resource that I found that I've used and customers have loved it, where it actually offers banks from all over and credit card issuers from all over that will basically help out folks that either had challenge credit or have had limited credit. And they'll list all the banks that do secured credit cards, that do the, maybe, that take a little bit more of a risk, ones that had challenge credit that they might go ahead and approve some to get you started back. So that's a good resource to go to to start basically building up that credit.
Perfect. Does anyone have any last minute questions for Todd before we split for the main room? Nice. All right. Well, thank you, Todd, for being here. I'm going to send out these slides tomorrow so everyone can look back over them. And yeah, if you want to get in contact with Todd, let me know and maybe I can set that up. And thank you so much for being here tonight. Sorry that we had some problems with the screen share, but I'm glad it worked out.
No. I thank you. And again, guys, thank you very much. And I really appreciate you talking.
Cool mirror.
What's that?
Nothing. I'm talking to my sister.
Oh, okay. But no, you guys have been great. I really appreciate the participation. And when I send out, I'll send the invitation. I'll send all the information to Mackenzie as far as my name and address. I thought that was already on there. I'll put that on there so that she can forward that out. Also, real quick, if you do want, because we're working with Step Up Durham, if you do want an account with First National, we've got one. It's pretty much a premier account, and you don't pay any fees on it. You don't even have to do direct deposit or any of these types of things you have to do with other banks. We pretty much give you the account and we give it to you for free, and there's no minimum balance requirement, no fees on it. And I'll send out that as well, and the information that you'll need to either go into a branch or apply online, and you get that as well.
Perfect. That's awesome.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. Everybody have a nice evening, and I hope you have a wonderful, safe Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Todd.
Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and everyone, we're going back to the main room and then splitting for co-partner time. So